Hi, we are having a maintenance day in our workshop, our new workshop at DIY Doctor. So new, in fact, we haven't even fixed the vise to the workbench yet. But part of that maintenance is a chisel sharpening session, and it gives me the opportunity to talk to you about some of the myths surrounding what is called a whetstone. And the first thing that we need to point out, because we get lots of emails about all of this stuff, this is called a whetstone, and it's spelt W-H-E-T, and whet means to sharpen. So it doesn't matter whether it's wet or dry, it's still a whetstone. The stones natural stone, they're kept dry, they're for grinding. And they will sharpen your chisels, of course they will, but the modern day whetstones are made out of carborundum, which is also silicon carbide, or corundum, which is aluminium oxide, and through a process called sintering, those materials are heated to the point that they become a solid just before they turn into liquid. So that's very, very high temperature. That's then cast into a block, and in this case sits in a little case which is screwed to something that I can fix on the worktop, and then we put some oil on there or some water. Now it's not called there are stones that are specifically for water, some for oil, some for both. The oil or the moisture, whatever it is you put on the stone, is purely a lubricant. It allows the chisel to move a little bit more easily, but more importantly it keeps the steel at a cooler temperature, because if the steel, the very fine edge that we're going to produce, heats the steel up, and that becomes it sort of spoils the integrity of that steel and makes it a little bit weaker. So I'm going to run my chisel along the back of that, watch the oil disperse. And here's another myth: you can buy honing guides for chisels, so you set the honing guide at the angle. Honing is, again, there should be two edges to a chisel. There's the angle, which is normally around about 30 degrees going from front to back, and then there's a sharper angle at the very, very end, normally around 25 degrees, but there are no rules. And the idea is that 25 degrees is the real sharpening, the real sharp edge of the chisel. So honing means to take a fairly dull edge, which is caused by the 30 degree, into a really sharp edge caused by the 25. If you think about it sensibly, the only sharp part of a knife is the very, very edge that you cut with. The sides aren't sharp at all. So that's the same with a chisel. What we're looking for there is a beautifully sharp edge. We can obtain that on a whetstone. It's quite a difficult process, takes quite a bit of practice, and you can buy honing guides that will set that angle for you properly. The trouble is that people just go backwards and forwards along the whetstone, or indeed the dry stone, with the chisel, even in the honing guide. That creates a groove in the whetstone and reduces the sharpening because it's wearing the sides away. So the way to use a whetstone is in a figure of 8 motion. If I slow that down, the camera can see me, and I'm feeling that I'm staying at the same angle with my ring finger, which can feel the angle. Now again, that takes quite a bit of practice to use a whetstone, and in the next video we'll be talking about a precision tool sharpening system, so much better than this. It's overtaken the whetstone method by a mile. It's fantastic, but this really is how you use a whetstone and what a whetstone is all about. On the reverse of the whetstone, there's a much finer blade for deburring the little burrs that you will get when you sharpen. So we'll sharpen our cutting edge, then we'll deburr, and then you'll see a lot of chippies strop the edge on a leather belt or even a piece of card, and what that does is remove what they call the wire along the edge. And that's the same with a razor. You'll see an old-fashioned barber stropping a razor, and that some strops can be used with some polishing compound to give an even sharper edge. A lot are just leather, and that takes the wire away from the edge and leaves the edge really, really sharp. So that's what a whetstone is, that's what it does. and as I say, they're not very often used nowadays because they take a lot of practice, but of course they've always done the job and they will continue to do the job.